Well, first of all, so good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking out the time this afternoon and coming to join us. It's quite nice for me to be able to reach out and connect with a lot of people with you guys from back in South Africa, because that's where I originate from. I left South Africa back in March to join up with CompuTime and Orbis. So it's been really refreshing over the last couple of months to start connecting with the likes of some of your businesses and to see how we can get Orbis into the African market and how we can start to show some clients on the ground the value that Orbis can offer. Before I go too much further, I'd just like to introduce Angelo. Angelo will be joining me on the presentation today. He's our solutions lead and was quite instrumental with the development of Orbis. Extensive background when it comes to Acumatica and Orbis itself.
Hello, everybody.
My background comes, as I mentioned, back in South Africa, where I worked for a company known as Exact Business Solutions. They were a part of the ARB Holdings Group. We were a software house, essentially, where we developed an ERP system for the ARB Holdings Group, and then we took it to market. So I'm not too sure if you're familiar with the group at all, but it was an ERP system that slotted quite neatly into the distribution market, which obviously now talks quite neatly to the market that Orbis talks to. So it's quite interesting to see the landscape at the moment and where we can offer some value with regards to Orbis, because I've got quite a keen understanding of what businesses are really looking for in Africa as opposed to the rest of the world right now. So just moving forward, I'm not going to spend too much time today on slides and talking. I'd rather spend most of my time going through the actual application, because I think that's probably part and parcel of why everybody joins these webinars. I myself get quite frustrated when you see people talking about the application run and showing me. But just to give you a little bit of background of who CompuTime and who Orbis is. So CompuTime is a gold certified Acumatica VAR. We've been a VAR since 2015. We're a certified ISV with Acumatica. We are based in Malta, in Europe, customers in Europe and North Africa. CompuTime, huge business here on the island, substantial business, been around for just a touch over 40 odd years, with a really good reputation in the IT industry. And I'm sure you'll understand, businesses and IT businesses at that have been around for that amount of time hold a substantial amount of weight when it comes to expertise. So Orbis, why did we have, what's the point of Orbis? Why did we develop Orbis? And where does it sit? For what kind of businesses should be looking into Orbis? So Orbis is our range of ISV add-ons. Orbis is our brand, essentially. DSD route accounting and planning is our first ISV product. It's developed seamlessly on the Acumatica XRP platform, where we're taking all the standard Acumatica features and literally just extending it throughout the landscape and throughout the platform. So you'll notice as I go through the presentation that all the screens are very familiar. So the security profiles are the same. The shipment screens are the same. The sales order screens are the same. Now, what we've done is we've just built onto that, created some batch processes, some distribution processes, and just some simple screens, and really giving the power and tools to transport managers to assist with grouping orders together, managing the delivery, planning routes out, assigning them to drivers, and then doing that reconciliation post when the driver returns after his deliveries have been for the day. So Orbis is, here at Orbis, we've also, the product itself is customer validated and it's Acumatica certified currently. So we've spent and invested quite a bit of time in the product, and we actually have 2 certified MVP developers built into our team at CompuTime. So we have quite a good backing and quite a substantial amount of skills when it comes to developing on the XRP. A typical customer for Orbis, someone who sits in the distribution sector, obviously, that goes part and parcel. But the direct store delivery, giving businesses the ability to pick up and drop off and manage that process. The businesses own their own fleet. And the typical industries would be fast-moving consumer goods, white label goods, wholesale goods, electrical goods, anything where you're literally going from either B2B or B2C. Benefits. I think the benefits in themselves speak in volume. When it comes to distribution or a warehouse manager, it's having to manage hundreds of orders daily. But as a logistics operation can become a huge challenge. Route deliveries, pickups, urgent deliveries, returns management, particularly in peak periods, a DSD solution is key, and it's really an important tool which businesses require these days rather than need. They really require in order to reduce errors and assist with managing the distribution cycle. This goes a long way when it comes to customer satisfaction, making sure the right order gets the right customer at the right time, at the right price, on the right day. And that's quite important. It was something that I've picked up and that's really been instilled. And lastly, the business needs visibility. Too often we're finding, and I remember when I was back in South Africa, my happy hunting ground looking for new sites was, sites that are running on old character-based systems where they're literally running the business off the back of a cigarette box. The distribution guys in the warehouse, they're working on Excel spreadsheets. They're working on a lot of manual processes. And this is where Orbis and Acumatica obviously fill that gap. Orbis provides visibility. No longer do the guys and warehouse managers need to know exactly where the customer is and what route that customer and the other customers fall into. Orbis gives them all those tools. It gives them the visibility to see it on a screen, but not only the warehouse guys, but also everybody in the business. Now allowing everyone to have a holistic view of what's actually happening down at a granular level when it comes to distribution. So with that in mind, that's just, as I said, I really wanted to brief over that pretty quickly just to give you a little bit of a background, but I'd rather spend most of my time today actually touching on the application itself. So let me jump in. So this is, let me log out. This will probably best to log out and log back in. So Orbis is the power of Orbis is really in the process that it provides. And we've split Orbis into what you can see on the screen as 4 different sections. We've got our order taking phase where we give customers and businesses the ability to interface with an SFA, Salesforce automation system, where they can drive the sale from the customer. For instance, with a mobile device, the likes of Skynamo or Peppery or any one of those Salesforce engine businesses, the rep can go to site, or the customer itself logs on, drives the order directly. Then it comes back into the system as what we call as a customer request. Now, a customer request is literally a pre-sales order, and I'll touch on that and I'll go into that process there. But what that does is that it now allows that order to now be generated from the customer. Then driving into, we can do a couple of credit hold checks, checking stock before it really gets processed into a sales order, a shipment, and then we run through the load section, which takes us into our route dispatching section. So our route dispatching, this is where a lot of the mechanics is happening. In this stage, we are taking sales orders, generating shipments from those sales orders, grouping those shipments by shipment date, by storage specification, by route, and giving a transport manager a little bit more clarity into what orders actually need to go out on what vehicles on what route for that particular day. Quite important, because at that point, he's not really interested in who it's going to. He just really wants to know, how many orders will I be able to fit onto this vehicle? What is the load capacity of the vehicle? Am I going to go over the load? Do I need to pull off any orders, or do I need to ship us on a different day? And giving him that kind of visibility and those kind of tools really gives them a lot more power. The data that I have set up here is based on the food and beverage industry. And in the food and beverage industry, they are items that have weight classification. So we have a weighted picking stage here. And at that stage, this is where we reweigh the goods before we generate invoices. For this setup, we are generating invoices before the vehicles leave, but we can generate documents for the vehicles that leave on shipment and generate invoices at a later stage. It doesn't have to happen at this stage. But what we do is we do another weight check. So all the items come through, we weigh them, we correct the quantities, we reprint labels, we correct the shipping document, and then at that stage we go and print out the invoices and delivery docs and all the documents that the driver takes away with him. Following on to the next stage, we've got our route reconciliation, and this is where the driver returns. So when the driver returns back to the stores, he's obviously done his deliveries for the day. He scans in his documents, because all our invoices or shipment documents have a barcode at the top and have a QR code, making it very simple for the drivers when they return to scan those documents to clarify that they've returned the scanned documents and all the deliveries have been done for the day. Following up for that, we've got our stock reconciliation. And at that stage, that is where drivers were able to input if there were any returns, any damages. So there were 20 items on a particular shipment. For that shipment, the customer rejected 3, and based on being damaged, the driver then would return back to the stores and say the client accepted 17 of the items, but 3 were damaged, and he marks those off, and those are actually credited. And the whole background process is actually done by Orbis. And the credit number is linked to the original invoice all in a single click of a button. And I'll run through that stage as we go through. Post that, we print off your stock reconciliation report and returns report for stock and for the warehouse manager to obviously manage where that stock must be placed. Going into our route accounting, and this is where we do our payment reconciliation. So I'm not too sure how often the drivers are collecting cash on the road, but I know it was a requirement at a couple of businesses that I dealt with before. No checks, but cash or credit, or it's obviously paid for. The customer has terms. But if the driver does need to collect cash, we have a payment reconciliation. So when the driver returns at the end of the day, he will count as cash and enter it into the system manually, capturing all the information, and that will actually spit out overs and unders, and we can allocate that to the driver or write it off accordingly, depending on whatever the business process is. Closing off the day for the relevant cashiers, posting of deposits, bank deposits, and then the final scanning of those deposits off. And that would be the cycle. Obviously, it probably sounds a whole lot simpler with me explaining it like that and all the mechanics that's actually happening in the background. But there are a lot of other integrations which we've touched on. There are we have done some customizations to the inventory tab, to the inventory section, to stock codes, as well as to the customer tab. So I'm going to start the process off with a couple of customer requests. If I go into a customer request, these are essentially the pre-sales order documents that are generated either manually here or by the customer themselves on a mobile device. As you can see, exactly the same screens as what we generally have. We just have it as a customer request post rather than a sales order itself. We are able on this customer request to put in the same product with different delivery dates if we wanted to, and that would then, when we generate into sales order, split those orders out into separate sales orders so that we can ship them accordingly. Here we've got a column here that specifies storage classification. So in the food and beverage industry, there are products that can be shipped on a normal vehicle, an ambient vehicle, some that need to be in frozen, some that don't. So what we've done is we've assigned a storage classification to each product code. That then allows us to specify on the vehicles what storage classification the vehicle can deliver. This is quite important because you wouldn't want to mix frozen items and ambient items up when you're delivering. So what we do here is we will group all the frozen items for a particular route, for a particular shipment in one of our next stages. And that will then go out as a separate delivery, as a separate load for that particular day. That's quite a neat field. And that is set up under our customers. So what we do is under our receivables, under our customers. Here we've added a customization as well. with regards to deliveries. Customer. You'll notice on the far right-hand side here, I've got delivery routes. If I click on that, I've got my two delivery routes here, RO1A and RO1C. If I look at RO1A, we've assigned specific storage classifications for this particular schedule. So this schedule will only be dealing with ambient items and non-frozen items, whereas RO1C would be dealing with frozen and chilled. So all products that have been assigned those storage specifications will fall into either one of those delivery routes and follow the schedule accordingly. We've also added in another tab here called the sales route schedule, and this is generally for the sales SFA, where we can push the details in to the SFA with regards to reps and rep visits to the customer. If you don't have an SFA, this really wouldn't be of any value to you at that point in time. Moving on to the inventory side, just to touch on there to show you the storage specification. And the other additional, I'm just going to pull up a code where I know it's weighted and frozen. Here we go, we've added a field in here for storage specification. This item is a frozen item. We've also added in a lot more details when it comes to packaging. You'll notice that the unit of measure is quite extensive compared to the standard. And this is all built on to assist us with regards to routes, planning, and delivering to the customer, obviously on time, based on these different delivery schedules. So going back to our customer request, this customer request for this customer has been specified on a route, and it's going to that distribution zone. Going back to the document, I would then go out of there, and if I go back to my schedule, you can see these are all open. I've got a couple on hold and a couple on credit hold. So these are obviously failed credit checks and need to be released. If I go back to my main menu and I go and release some credit hold, this is the nice batch screen where I can select all the credit holds and release them, or just do individual ones if I wanted to, and process those accordingly. Release from credit hold, and those will release those from credit hold. Another nice check which we provide is also to check out of stock. So before it gets too far down the line, we're able to check if there are going to be any out of stock items based on the requests and based on a shipment date. At the moment, I'm only looking for 1 day, but I can actually extend this out for a couple of weeks, and immediately it'll tell me what products will be out of stock within those dates if I make all the deliveries that are on the system at the moment. Drilling down a little bit further into these items, once again, we just extend the standard Acumatica, and we can view the individual sales orders that have been generated, which will be shipped out. And accordingly, we can adjust those quantities if need be. Drilling down into each one if need be. All the standard Acumatica functionality. Right. So what I'm going to do is, I've got all those customer requests. I'm going to quickly convert those into sales orders. Before I go too much further, also what we do when we set up Orbis, you'll notice on the left-hand side, you have the distribution button here. And these are all the different functions which we will have set up. These will all become available when Orbis is set up and configured for the relevant instance implementation. I'm going to generate all the outstanding customer requests for a particular date range. I'm going to say for up until the 16th. These are all my requests. I'm going to convert the documents, and I'm just going to say process all. Tells me there are 8 documents, and will give me any errors if there are any errors or any problems along the way in a visual. Once again, another batch screen for processing documents. Nice and simple. It gives the users a good view as to making it simple for them to convert multiple customer requests into orders. I'll check those documents later, but we've got a couple through. So if I go look now on the system, we would have generated a number of sales orders because we converted our customer request into sales orders. If I open up my sales order screen, once again, standard Acumatica taking our customer request into a sales order. And you'll notice now I've got a number of open sales orders. I've got some that say shipping, and they've all been assigned different routes. So nice and neat, all come into a separate place. The separate, at this stage, we would have split out the requests based on the storage classification and the route. So if there's an item here on request for storage classification of frozen and the shipment date of the 12th, and then there was another one for another item for chilled and delivery date of the 11th, we would have split it up into 2 different orders because those need to be managed separately. All right. Going back to the process, our process menu. Here we would now go follow this process here of creating shipments. So we take create shipments. Once again, we're doing this in batch form. I'm going to create shipments for the 12th of November. And I'm going to look at all the documents that have got a shipment date of between the 12th and the 16th. Or I can just do the 12th. To say I only want to be able to ship these documents for the 12th because that's the only ones I'm actually worried about. I have also got the option here to override the request date. So as the transport manager, I could say, I know that those are for the 12th. These are all the orders for the 16th, but we're actually going to be going there, and I know that's for the 16th, but we'll actually deliver that on the 12th because we've got the stock available, and it's more efficient for us to deliver on the 16th. So the transport manager has the ability at this point in time to override the system and say, I want to deliver it on the 12th. At this point in time, well, he goes, he ticks all the blocks and selects process. That will create a load or loads, should I say, or groups of orders based on route, shipment date, storage classification for the 12th of November. Process, once again, that's taking a batch. Nice and simple for the transport manager to group all the orders together and process that out. 6 orders processed out in a batch form. Back at this stage now, we've taken our shipments and now we are creating loads. Here in the load section, you'll notice now that I have a number of loads on my left-hand side. As I mentioned earlier, we are now grouping the loads by shipment date, delivery route, and storage classification. For this line here, like the first line, I've got 1 shipping document. I know what the total weight and total volume is of that shipping order, and it's going to 1 customer. That's quite important, obviously, when you start to assign those to the different vehicles. Here, for instance, we have got 8 documents and 6 customers with that weight and volumetric components based on the components that are pulled through from each individual product. What I'm going to do here is I need to create loads, but you'll notice at the top here I've got a little warning button, and that's telling me that I've also got 3 return documents. So within Orbis, we can actually create return requests as well. So the return requests would be based on damaged items. It could be overstock if it need be. So the customer itself can also request a scheduled return of items at any stage. And these are also being grouped according to shipment date, request date really, delivery route, and storage classification. So I'm going to select a warehouse because the Orbis also accommodates for multiple warehouses. The warehouse, and I'm going to create my loads, which would be assigned a collection of vehicle and driver. At this stage, I can go and singularly select a van. This is an ambient van. I've got a split van. I've got another split. The license number. It also automatically assigns the driver, which has been assigned to this van, or I can go and change the driver at any stage. I can assign a helper or anything else if I wanted to and create that. That will then create me a load for that driver for that vehicle. Or alternatively, I could go in and if I had a number of vehicles, I could go say, auto-populate, and it'll take all available vehicles and drivers and populate a list of loads. And there they all are there. You'll also notice that I've got a couple of warnings here on the left-hand side. What these warnings will be displaying at the moment will be that we've got the same driver assigned to multiple loads from the same day. And it also would warn us if we've got the same vehicle assigned to the same day, same order, same loads for the same day. Holding on to that, we also display a warning when we go over volume, over the max volume for a vehicle, or over the maximum weight for that vehicle. And that we set up in the vehicle maintenance section, where if I pull up this van, we will have a maximum load capacity and maximum weight capacity. We can capture some other information about the vehicle. We assign the vehicle type and the status and some other information if need be, if you have that information available. Going back to, just close some of these screens off. Right. So here for the 12th, now I can start to assign my deliveries to my individual loads. So what I could do, nice and simply, if I see that I've got for this load here on the 12th using en route O2C, I wanted to assign that to my vehicle here at the top. I click on that, I click on the vehicle, I say assign, that'll bring up all the shipments for that order. Click on it, process, and that will assign it to that vehicle. Simple as that. Nice and easy. If there were multiple shipments, it would all be assigned to that vehicle itself. Now it shows me that I've got this vehicle on that delivery route for that driver, and he's got one shipment assigned. I've got the total volume for this load and the total weight. I can also start to add in additional deliveries to that route, even though that it's going across and breaking rules based on the storage classification or route. This driver could be going to multiple routes in the day. It doesn't matter. It's just an indication, a guideline for the transport manager to use. But I just wanted to show you the warnings that pop up and says this vehicle storage classification has been detected, and the vehicle has multiple loads assigned to them. The driver has multiple loads. And now you can see how he's got multiple routes. Drilling down into let's actually just assign try to see if we can assign the return as well. Nice to have them all in. I can run the entire process through. All right, so now I'm going to drill down into this load to view the load itself, because maybe it comes to a stage where the vehicle is actually now overloaded and you need to offload an item or a product, or ship only a portion of what has been sent already, has been documented here already. On this screen, I can pick an item and say unload from this load or move to another load. So I could take this line item, seeing that it's the frozen line item, and say I actually want to move this to a different load, pull up the loads that's available and assign it to a different load for today. Alternatively, I can take this load and unload it from this vehicle, and that will remove it from this load and put it back into the general population on the left-hand side. I can also, from this screen, click on actions and change the delivery vehicle and driver if anything needs to be changed there, as well as changing the shipment date or printing the picking list from this stage, right from this single screen. I can also, at any given stage, drill down into individual shipments. Once again, because we're extending the standard Acumatica, you go into a shipment, very familiar screen as per normal, and I can amend the ship quantity here accordingly, and that will be shipped and leave an outstanding amount there on the original sales order. Save and close. We're now shipping ship quantity 3, ship quantity 2. Yeah. Closing that. we'll notice that, go back to our shipments, our one order here has moved back into general population because we've removed it from our load, and our total weight and volume has dropped, and our total number of items would have dropped as well. Yeah. From this load, I'm now just going to start the picking process and now start to push it through the system into the next phase. At this stage now, you'll notice that the status is updated and the goods are now being picked. Once again, as I mentioned before, we have multiple different picking processes. There's obviously the standard wave pick. There's an individual pick where some customers, based on the order size, you may prefer to individually pick their items instead of doing it by wave. And we've also got the weighted pick option, but for weighted items, if there are any items that require that process. Going back, yeah, we would then go to those stages. The picking slips look are visually like this, where we have our individual pick. We've got a barcode for each item, a load number that goes out, all categorized into the different sections. Here's our wave picks, and at the top it should be our individual picks, correct? And the different items, units and cases. Moving on from that, we've also got our weighted picks. So if there are any weighted items, we will print the weighted document, the new quantity and the new weight. Moving forward from that, we also then print the correct weighted labels. So we'll print a document out that will then allow the users to assign and label up the products accordingly. So once the drivers finish the picking process, we then move on to what we call as processing of load.
Can I add something, Clyde, to this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, can you click on the weighted picking, because this is quite an important. There are two things which are quite important here. What we did with weighted picking, put in load reference 62. I think it's 62 or 70, was it?
I don't have any items on there. I think I've removed the frozen good.
Okay, all right. Okay, no worries. Let me explain the screen.
Okay, let me go back.
You have something which you can add?
I do have something I can add this item here.
Okay. No, you have to remove it from picking. You have to pause picking to add more. Okay, this pause picking, this is quite important. Since the delivery right now is in picking stage, the system will not allow you to add any more shipments to it, or else there will be a whole confusion in the warehouse. So what the user can do, he can pause the picking, close it, save it and close it, move the load, and then start again the picking process. The reason being then obviously is to manage the warehousing correctly so that there is no, you didn't click on the, okay. Mm-hmm. All right, then you can go back, continue picking. Yep. And that way we eliminate the confusion behind the picking process and people adding additional shipments to that picking process. So there, if we click on the load, that's it. Here, what we did instead of the standard Acumatica, as you know, you have to go in each and every shipment and change the quantity if it is different than what has been ordered or what is in shipping. Now with weighted products, since the weight of the item changes, and usually they charge by weight, you have to the company needs to ensure that when they are picking the item, they need to also weigh, that is why it's weighted pick, weigh the item and put in the correct kilograms or the correct weight, so that then they charge the client correctly. So to ease the work required to go shipment by shipment and change that, what we did, we created a new screen here where for each load we show only those items which are weighted, and from the screen the user can change the quantity and also include the number of pieces, because sometimes, especially with weighted frozen items, usually it is in pieces as well. So they change the quantity and pieces. they can save it and can also print the labels that that Clyde showed you. And the reason why we do this here is because from one screen, if you have a lot of weighted product, then the system will change the shipment quantity and also will recalculate what will be charged to the client based on the new weight and new quantity that you put on the screen.
Thanks, Angela. This process, this weighted process, as I mentioned earlier, we may, depending on the business requirement, move the invoicing stage from here to a little bit further down and to be the shipping stage. The weighted process would remain the same, because obviously you still want to make sure that the items that once they leave your stores are leaving your stores on an accurate document, where
Exactly.
the weight is accurate.
And one last thing, and I leave it up to you. There's the modify shipment as well. If you click on modify shipment on there, that will take us to a screen. This is a GI at the end of the day, because once again, to help the clients, if when picking you find some items which are missing and you want to change the quantities on the shipments, it's very tedious in Acumatica. So what we did here, you select the item. On the right hand side, there is the lists. Once you select the item, on the right hand side of that GI, there is the list, and the system will tell you on which shipments those items exist right now. And you can then open the shipment and change accordingly. This in the versions to come, we're planning to do it similar to the weighted pick, and you can change everything from one screen as well. But for the time being, it is through this GI that they can then change the quantities based on what they find during picking. Okay, that's it from my side.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela. All right, so what we've done is we've done the weighted picking, and we've moved to the releasing of the goods. So at the moment, all the goods have been picked, and now we're at the stage where we need to release the goods to be sent to the driver for the particular day. So before he leaves, he'll get his delivery notes, his trip sheets, all the relevant documents for each delivery to take place. Then he'll take that with him, get signed by the relevant customers, make sure he ticks off the relevant items that need to be delivered, and runs that process through. At the moment, we are working through the POC with a route management mobile application, route optimization mobile application. It also caters for PODs, and they plug directly in with Orbis, providing an extension on Orbis itself, providing drivers with the tools now to route to each individual delivery, providing drivers with the tools to capture additional information while out on the road, and also giving the business at any given stage a visual into where the driver is potentially at any given stage. All right, moving on. So once again, we are back to our process menu. As you can see, I go back to this process menu all the time. This is where we generally live with regards to the process for distribution. Once the vehicle has left the stores, he goes and does all his deliveries and returns back and starts to do what we call his document verification and stock reconciliation and payment reconciliation. So I'm going to start by the stock reconciliation because we've consolidated the two into one. So here for this particular shipment date, for a particular driver, a particular warehouse, we can start the reconciliation, and that will bring, did I send that out on driver 2? That's why it didn't come up. Driver 2. Start reconciliation. Let's go back. Open up a new one. So reconciliation for the 12th for a driver 2. Driver in warehouse.
Did you print the documents? Because I think how it is set up for the demo, you need to print the documents.
I don't think I did. I think I just did the release.
Okay. This is once again based on the setup of the system. No, you have to select the printer.
Yep.
This works with Device Hub, with the standard Device Hub of Acumatica, so that you can print directly to the printer rather than to PDF and then push it to the printer.
Here we go. Okay, so now let's go back to our screen. Process delivery loads, and there's our shipment there now waiting to be collected. So if I click on that, and
you're still in process.
Sorry, process window. Apologies. Close up some of these screens. Okay, there's my delivery load location. Let's get this right. Yes. There we go. So there are my different loads and shipments that have been delivered on this load for this driver out while he's been out on the road. Now, a nice simple process for him to do, as I showed you with the picking list, we also do it with the invoice and picking and shipping documents. There's a scan facility where it gives the drivers the ability to come in and start to verify their documents to make sure that everything was delivered. So they pull up the documents and make sure that everything was correct and delivered correctly. So here they will come in, click on start, and then they would literally come in to verify documents and literally start scanning each document. I don't have a scanner with me, but it's essentially as simple as in scanning the shipment number, and that will literally take it off the list, as you can see coming off on the bottom section of the screen. And that will then mark all those items as scanned. The scan recon has all got a tick now. Now that our scanning is complete, we would then move on to decide on what we actually want to do with the orders. Were all the orders delivered in full? Were some returned? Were there any full returns of the items? What actually happened while the driver was out? I'll refresh this. All our scans are correct. I can say potentially for this first line, there was a partial return. Yes. And on that item, on that item, we originally were 2, but they returned 1. What does this do? You'll notice, you'll be familiar that within, sorry, I need to put a reason.
You have to enter the reason code.
I'm trying to take shortcuts.
Okay, the reason code is very important because the reason code behind it, there is also some settings. Besides the settings, obviously, of the adjustments, etc., we have also enhanced the product so that the system knows if it's a damaged item or not. And if it's a damaged item, it will go to a different location based on configuration, obviously. It will go to a different location rather than the standard location, so that immediately during reconciliation, the stock reconciliation, while doing the returns, while creating the returns, the system helps the user to segregate damaged items from collected items or undelivered items.
Perfect. So with that done, we will have a credit memo created, and that's automatically allocated against the invoice. And you'll know what kind of a tedious process that is at the moment with directly within Acumatica. If you're doing multiple, and if you've got multiple shipments to print out for the driver, this process here could be a really lengthy process if you didn't have a tool very similar to what we're displaying here for you at the moment. On the top of the screen, you'll see the returns, if there were any returns done and processed. So at this stage, we would then go and we would start to reconcile this redundant order, if we are happy that everything else was delivered. Okay. Our stock reconciliation is done. We go look at our returns. We process the redundant returns to make sure that the system is happy, letting the system know that we are happy that all the returns were done and all the documentation was processed accordingly. And this does all the posting.
So just until it finishes. What is happening behind the scenes are all the processes which usually happens with Acumatica. That means that because the way that it is configured, the system, we delivered on an invoice. Obviously, any returns credit memo needs to be created and linked to the actual to the original invoice. What we are doing as well is extending the product so that the reason why we did it that way, because all local suppliers here in Malta, they deliver always on an invoice, not on a shipment document. However, obviously, we're extending the product so that we allow also to deliver based on shipments, and then the invoice is created after all these adjustments are done. But for the time being, this is what Clyde is showing you is invoices. Is stock reconciliation based on pre-calculated and pre-invoiced documents.
All right. Moving forward from here, we would then take this document and move and verify and reconcile the load and move this document to the payment reconciliation section. The reports that are available here are our stock reconciliation and our stock returns report, and those look something like, up here I've got an example. Reconciliation.
Show the stock return report, Clyde.
Yep. So there's our stock. Okay. There's our document reconciliation report. Mm-hmm. This is when there was the stock return report. Sorry, that's the one you need to see. So if there were any returns made for the day, the number of cases, the actual individual units, the lot and serial, the product description, when the different clarifications or different reasons for the goods being returned, client refused, wrong order, and then the products that fell underneath that. So nice and comprehensive and giving clarity into actually what's happened out on the road and to the warehouse manager with regards to the stock and what actually needs to happen with the stock and moving it around the warehouse. Okay, moving on to the route accounting section. This is where we now move on to doing the payment reconciliation. At this stage, we would then, I'm just going to open up that one that's already existing. At this stage, we would then pick up what all the documents that have been out on delivery for that particular day, for the cash that the driver has collected. This is all the cash sales he dealt with. This is all the credit sales he had and the relevant associated credit memos. At the bottom of the screen, we've got like a very simple, basic cash reconciliation. This is almost a very simplistic point of sale, really, for where we've assigned the cashier and the driver accordingly. So we can see that the total amount of cash collected was 1,001 Rand. There were a couple of returns. There was cash sales, some credit sales. The cash that collected should have been 951 Rand 83. At this stage, he could enter 951 Rand 83 and move forward. Or if he had to enter in that he only had 900, there would be a balance left over 51 Rand. And at this stage, you can decide on what you want to do with the balance. Are you going to offset the amount? And that would create in the background a customer account and assign that to the driver. And then again, in the month, you can decide on how you are going to recover that cash from the outstanding money from the driver himself, or if you were going to write it off, whatever the business process was moving forward.
So just to add something to this, Clyde, if you go back to the cash sales, click on the cash sales and tab and on the screen. That's it. Thank you. Here, what we are trying to do, because this is important to understand what's happening behind the scenes. What we are trying to do is that on a daily basis, if you have hundreds of orders and some of them where cash was collected against it, cash or direct payment, or in our case, also checks here locally. If you try to create all the payments for all these documents using the standard functionality of Acumatica, it is quite time consuming consuming. So what we did here, we created a screen, and behind the scenes, all that is happening. The standard functionality of Acumatica is all happening behind the scenes. So in the front screen, all we are showing there are the invoices, and first of all, based on the credit terms and payment method, we know which invoices the driver should have collected cash for and which he shouldn't. And those which he should have collected cash, we show them under the cash sales tab. Those which are credit, we show them under the credit sales. That is why we have those different tabs there. Now, this cash sale, the cash sales, on the right hand side, we have the payment amount column, payment method column, and payment reference. Based on the payment method, okay, we change what we require when it comes to payment reference, bank, and payment date. Because if it's a check, then that check, different information needs to be collected besides the payment amount. The payment amount that is entered there should be the payment amount that the client actually paid. And that is why then in the bottom of the screen where client entered the 900, that is what the driver actually gives back as cash. And the system will check if there's any difference between that amount that is entered in the right bottom field, cash amount, and what has been reconciled on a line-by-line basis on the screen. Okay, we cater also for multi-payment. Multi-payment meaning that sometimes certain clients will tell you, I'm going to pay part in cash and part in check, for example, or part in using other methods of payment. And that is why we manage the multi-payment as well. Okay, so Clyde, if you can close that pop-up window. Clyde,
Yep.
If you can close that pop-up window and click on multi-payment just to show it. There we have a screen. Okay, because it's a different cash deal. Okay, well, what happened was that the cash deal is the cash deal which is not actually Clyde's cash deal, but is working on behalf of another person. If you go on the action, just to show them the action, there we can do a number of things because these are like cash deals. Okay, we can assign to different cashiers, we can hold the reconciliation, etc., etc. If you click on assign to cashier and then assign to myself, then you can do other things. Like, for example, if you click admin there, type admin. The first one, Michael Andrews, exactly that one. And process, then he can do all the other features. Okay, I know this. This is a version which is a release a little bit older version here, the one that we are showing you. That is why that error came up. No problem. But we allow for multi-payments and we allow also for short payments. Short payments meaning that if the customer paid in short, okay, we can mark that record in short, and that record then will remain open. Even if we do a payment, it will remain open until it is fully paid up at a later time. And the short payment, the difference from the short payment will not go on the offsetting of the driver, but will remain on the customer. So these are all features which the user can enter in the screen. And then once the screen is fulfilled, I don't think we have time to show all the process exactly, but once it is fulfilled, then once we press the reconciliation, the system behind the scenes will create all the payments, will allocate the payments and the allocations to the actual invoices, and where the invoices are fulfilled completely, it will close the invoices, the payments, and also the credit memos. Okay, that was an explanation of the screen, because the screen does a lot of things when it comes to payments.
Sure. Thanks, Angela. Just going back and if I can demonstrate one that has been settled, I can give you a representation into settled. Here we've got this document where it has been settled itself. If we go and drill down into the relevant document itself, we will be able to see the allocation. Here, we could go through and have a look at this.
The applications.
Where am I looking? Applications, there we go. And here we can see that this has been posted and closed off. Payment date and the full amount. You can see the status has moved to closed because that the payment has actually been received. Well, the credit has been written to this particular invoice. But if it was a part credit and payment, which was allocated, there would be two lines, one for the credit and one for the payment, based on the amount that was paid accordingly through the payment process or the payment reconciliation screen. So, and the payment reconciliation screen is fulfilling many different purposes at that point, at the point of running through that reconciliation itself. The end of day is a way for us to close off cashiers for the end of the day, making sure that whatever documents they have outstanding are closed off. Their total values are then posted accordingly. Let's see if I've got one here. There we go. There's a cashier. Hold on. Where she would have the cash that she's collected for the checks, the other any unreleased amounts. From that, she would then close the day off. And then from there, you would go and process the relevant bank deposit. In the bank deposit screen, you then allocate that. You would create a new batch, allocating that to a bank deposit account and a relevant cashier, putting in the total amount that you're looking to do the transfer for, and that will automatically on releasing, once upon releasing, it creates your general ledger batch for you and does all the relevant posts. And you can also start from this stage, start your actual deposit itself, print off the deposit slips for the banks themselves. And pretty much in a nutshell, that would be the Orbis flow. I don't know, Angela, is there something else that you would like to add?
I think there are some existing process bank deposits if you want to show them, because the one that you showed them was blank. These are some testings as well. If you go to records and see one which is settled, the first one for yes, I think you can take either that one or there. This is where we settle the date. In fact, we create two things. First of all, and either deposit it in the bank, or else if part of it is not going to be deposited in the bank, we will deposit it in the cashier till control account, so that at the top we always define what is the cashier till control account, and anything which doesn't go to the bank, it goes to the cashier till control account. Okay, we post here both the cash and checks. If you click on checks, you will see the checks. Clyde, the tab checks there, so you can select the checks which you are going to deposit. So we deposit both cash and checks in this case, and we have also a report in the reports whereby we prepare the deposit slip even for the bank. Usually locally there are the security services which come to pick up the cash and the checks from the customer and take it to the bank, and we prepare these deposit slips for these security personnel to take them to the bank as well. Okay, what happens when we process this are two things. First of all, we create a standard Acumatica bank transfer, that is the deposit number there, and we also create a batch, and the batch is to move the money from the tills to the actual, move them from one bank account to another, which is from the tills to the control account in this case. And we also mark each and every payment that has been, which was paid in check and has been deposited to the bank on the payment document. On the actual payment document, we mark the deposit number and the deposit date, so that we know exactly on each and every payment when it was deposited.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. One last final process that we do as well is the document scanning, which is the last one, which unfortunately we cannot show you on this demo. But what happens is each and every document that we give to the driver, and the driver, once again, when it's a manual delivery, and the driver asks the client to sign many a time, what we do in batch, at the end of the day, we scan the documents in batch, Okay, and this system automatically with that button, with a click of a button, it will go and check the QR code, because we print a QR code on these documents, and it checks the QR code, find the actual document in Acumatica, and attaches the scanned copy as a file to that actual document, which is an invoice or shipment document. And that happens in a batch, so that if you have 400 orders, it does that in one batch and processes all those documents, scans them, and attaches them to the actual document. Once again, what we are doing here, we are just extending the functionality of Acumatica to do all these processes. That was our aim behind the Orbis DSD, to do as much as possible and take the burden from the many screens that the user needs to go through, and working on a very few screens, and all the other processes are done automatically behind the scenes.
Perfect. Thanks, Angela.
Welcome.
I'm not sure. There's we obviously covered quite a bit today. I'm not too sure if there are any questions.
There are two questions on the chat, Clyde.
I didn't see the chat. I don't see it either.
Okay, the first one is, hi Clyde, can the mobile work offline? Since they asked you, you have to answer this.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Not a problem. Andre, yes. So in short, the mobile application is an offline mobile application. As I said, we're in POC with it at the moment, and we're testing it out. But the functionality that the third party has is there is offline availability on the mobile application itself.
Okay, thank you. And the second one is, can the printing manage .matrix? To be honest, I cannot say yes or no. It depends on the device hub. Up to now, we never had this request, because it was always on laser printing. We can check with the device hub if it allows for .matrix. If device hub do support .matrix, then I don't see a reason why Orbis DSD should not, because what we do is we push the document to the device hub and let device hub manage the printing of the documents. What I can tell you, because we do it and we have it active, we can print in duplicates and we can staple as well. So if you have a printing machine where you need to print in duplicates and it automatically staples, that we can do. Because we are doing it already. So yes, we do print in duplicates and staple. With regards to .matrix, I'm not sure, because it depends on the device hub. If device hub supports it, then we do support it.
Essentially, Andre, if you're managing to get it done now at the moment on Acumatica,
in fact,
it will be covered within Orbis.
Yeah, this is quite interesting. I have to check with Acumatica, because I never asked them to see if .matrix is supported.
Sure. I'm not too certain. Is there anybody else who's with any other questions that I could potentially assist with, or myself or Angela? Okay. Just a final stage would be, I think, it's just to give everybody a little bit more information about the partnering options. So with Orbis, we have two partnering options: the strategic partner and referral partner. Referral partner is obviously a strategic partner is somewhere where we would literally go into partnership with you to take Orbis on for many of your customers, and we would spend time training you on Orbis so that you would be able to implement, and we would provide second and third level support. Obviously, on the first couple of implementations, we would be there to handhold and make sure that the process runs as smoothly as possible. And it's always in our best interest, obviously, to make sure that the customer is happy and that the implementation is done to a specification that both we are proud of and yourselves. So, and making sure that the customer is able to move forward and get the most out of the application. Referral partner is pretty much a once-off referral fee, where we will, based on the site and the license, we will pay over. We will agree on a percentage for that referral. I think
We have, Clyde, we have one other, sorry, did I button early? Because we have another question. Just want to confirm you can buy certain modules. The answer to that is yes, but I think it's better then we delve into more detail because there are certain features which depend on certain other features. So the short answer is yes, but I think to be more correct, this requires a discussion than which modules you are referring to.
Yes, Andrew, I think what we can do is if you've got a customer in mind, please give me a shout and we can have a bit of a deeper discussion offline regarding that, and we can go into a little bit more detail as to how we can find a strategy to get the customer on board. We're here to help, and I'm here to help, so let's engage.
Thank you very much, because Andrea told us great demo. Congratulations with amazing product. Thank you very much for that comment.
Thanks, Andrea. We appreciate that. Thanks, everybody. I won't hold up anybody. I know it's pretty late in the afternoon. Thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it. And if there's anything that I can assist with, please reach out to me. I'll be dropping you a mail shortly this afternoon, evening. Please reach out, let me know where I can offer value and if there's any potential for us to engage with some of your customers and take and fill a gap. I'm here to help. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and thanks for your time.